All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today I'm back with another video here. I have a very special guest with me for today's episode. I have a little interview here with Flyers player development coach Nick Schultz. If you guys remember, Nick Schultz used to play for the Flyers a handful of years ago. He was with the Wild for a long time. Um, and as I said, Schultz used to play defense for the Flyers. And again, seriously, Nick, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And I'm very excited to get started here.
Yeah, no problem, Chris. Glad to help out and be able to jump on with you. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, kind of just to start off, I think as I mentioned to you before, I'm 17, so I am younger and things like that. Just kind of personally, how did you feel, playing hockey, at 17? What was kind of like I guess you could say your mental state. How did you feel, personally, at that young age, kind of playing hockey and, you thinking that you could maybe get drafted and things like that?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, when I was your age, I was playing major junior hockey in Canada or whatever. So
Mhm.
was my draft year or whatever. So I got picked that year, or like you talked about, you got a couple years to graduation, or a couple weeks, sorry, till graduation. So
Yeah.
it was right around same thing for me. We had the NHL draft. I got
Mhm.
picked by the Wild, and then a couple weeks later had my graduation. So it was pretty cool month for a young guy to have that, be able to graduate high school and get picked to the National Hockey League. So like you said, kind of just some of those lifelong dreams of getting picked and having a chance to play in the NHL
Right.
was kind of a cool
Mhm.
feeling and stuff. So it's nice as a young guy to know a team wants you. You kind of start your career knowing where you're going to be and what it's going to look like to a certain degree. So
Yeah, right. And I think that's kind of the one thing that I think many people don't necessarily kind of think is it's all just like one crazy kind of thing. And how did you kind of take that where it was just like bam, like you're right out of high school and then you go straight into the NHL? How did you kind of take that?
yeah, so that next year, first year I went to camp there and stuff. Didn't make the team, but I was there for training camp through
Mhm.
the exhibition season. Went back and played another year in junior until I made the NHL at 19. So I was still fortunate. Played as a young guy or whatever. I was on an expansion team in Minnesota, which I think kind of fast tracked it a little bit from not having to spend time in the American Hockey League. But I was fortunate to have some good coaching there and play on some good teams and learn as a young player, or whatever. So it was nice. It was a good place to start, and I owe a lot to Minnesota, the organization there, the players and the coaches there for helping me kind of as a young guy develop and get better and be able to have a long career in the NHL. So
Right. No, definitely. And that's the thing. I think for a lot of guys who are able to kind of hone that in at a young age and are able to just kind of come in and develop their skills and stuff like that. But one thing I kind of wanted to talk about, as your time here with Philly, what are some of your fondest memories of being a Flyer?
you know what, I was pretty pumped. I'd always kind of played out west, or kind of Minnesota was the furthest I'd been out east or whatever. So I went from Minnesota to Edmonton, and then was kind of traded at the deadline to Columbus before I signed as a free agent here with the Flyers. And Ron Hextall kind of knew a lot about me from when he was with the Kings and
Hmm.
Minnesota being out west. So he was looking to add some depth or whatever here. So it was great. And honestly, I signed a 1 year deal, came as a free agent. And that year we had Craig Berube as the coach, and he was really good to me. Played me a lot and had a big role with the team that year, and had some success, and was fortunate to sign 2 more years after that. So it was good. It was special. It was fun. We still live here in the Philly area, or in Jersey or whatever, and working for the team now. So it's a great area. We love it here. We love our family being able to call this home and have our kids go to school here and grow up on the East Coast and get a chance to work for the Flyers. So it was great. And to play for the Flyers, I always knew they were a team that was competitive and wanted to compete every year, and was striving to win the Stanley Cup, which is what you want. And as a player, as your career went along, I thought I had a great opportunity here being a part of this organization. Just Mr. Snyder and the team in general always kind of pushed to
Right.
have a great product on the ice. So it was exciting. I love playing in the East Coast. Love this division here is pretty special. I think with all the teams, with the Rangers, the Islanders,
Yeah. Right.
Pittsburgh, all the rivalries and all the teams being so close, the Caps and all these guys. It's a fun division to play in. There's a lot of great teams, good competition, and it's fun to go into the Wells Fargo Center and have a packed house is pretty special. So I think I was fortunate. All the teams I played on
Hmm.
in my career had great fan bases. So Minnesota loves hockey, Edmonton, obviously in Canada,
Yeah, right.
Columbus sports supports their team really well. And here in Philly, I mean, there's some of the best fans in the league and support their team and are there. And it's a loud building, so it's fun as a player to play in front of knowledgeable fans and people that really care about the team. So
Yeah, exactly. I think now you kind of see that a lot with the playoffs now. I mean, as we're watching this with, fans getting back into the building, I mean, how much it kind of adds from the fans from, those Canadian games where there weren't as many fans. And then you saw
yeah,
that game 6 the other night with Toronto and Montreal. They had the couple thousand go in there, and that kind of added some
yeah.
of it too.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, right now, like I don't even want to turn on the games in Canada with no fans because to watch these games in Nashville and some of
Right.
these places where they have the fans, you feel that energy that the fans bring to the game, right? And the
Yeah.
players, it's something special to have a full house. I mean, I obviously didn't have to go through that and experience that, but I'm sure it's tough
Mhm.
for the players having these empty buildings and not having the
Yeah.
hometown crowd there rooting the teams on. So you kind of see that and you feel that energy even sitting on your couch watching
Right.
the game. So it's exciting seeing the fans back in the building. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I was kind of saying that to my dad as we were watching the games is like a lot like you can just tell the difference from the Canadian game. It's like here and here, you know what I mean? Like with the
for
fans.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, just one more question there about your time with the Flyers. As you were on the ice for this play, and I remember this vividly because I was at the game. Um, that Michael Neuver save against the Wild, where he dove across with the paddle. I
Yeah.
know you were on the ice.
Mhm.
Just take me through that.
Yeah, it's pretty special goalies there. The guys that battle and compete like that never know
Yeah.
they're out of a play, right? So, and
Right.
he had that same mentality, and those goalies are the ones that are really, special, and that's kind of how they play. Noivy wasn't a big guy, so he was obviously had to be very athletic and make
Right.
sure he was never gave up on a play. And I think you probably saw it on that where just kind of desperation or you see it lots where goalie like the net's wide open, he throws a stick out or throws
Yeah.
something out and it hits it right. So they always kind of have that desperation. I think kind of Noivy had that. It's too bad he was a great goaltender, just had some
Right.
injury issues and kind of cut his career a little
Mhm.
bit short, but he was fun to have him, play in front of him, the time that I was here.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the thing. I mean, I always said that too about Neuvert. I loved him. I thought he was great. He was always a nice guy. I met him a handful of times, but it just sucked because he was injured so much, and it took a lot, you know, away from him because he wasn't able to stay healthy and be able to be in the net all the time. But there were some games. I mean, when he was healthy, man, he was on, and it was just so
Yeah, it
unfortunate he
was. Yeah,
couldn't.
yeah, it was too bad. Like you said, he had
Right.
opportunities there where Steve Mason got hurt, or there was chances where he kind of had the net and
Mhm.
played well, and he was the guy. And just unfortunately, he had some injury issues and couldn't stay healthy and consistently play. Like you said, it would have
Right.
been pretty special to see him be healthy and consistently play because he definitely had the ability. So
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So now let's kind of get into the your role as a player development coach. So
sure.
you came here in June 2019. You were added to the Flyers staff for player development. How did that kind of work out? Was that kind of just like the Flyers came to you, or as you said, like were you still in the area at the time?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, we stayed in the area. I have a young
Hmm.
son that's turning 14, so I've kind of been coaching his team, and that's kind of been a nice, something to have following hockey. I have three young kids, so they've kind of kept me busy. Being retired, ever my first couple of years, I just kind of coached his team
Right.
and didn't do much. And then when Chuck Fletcher came in here to the Flyers, he was my general manager in
Right.
Minnesota for a couple of years there. He was actually the one who traded me out of Minnesota to Edmonton, so we have
Hmm.
a little bit of a history there. But he reached out and just kind of knew my past and
Right.
knew what I was, knew my character and things like that. And I think a lot of these positions for player development, they're looking at ex players that have kind of been through that, started up as a young player and played kind of
Right.
through all different levels and stuff and can relate to the young guys and help these guys develop. So Chuck reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in helping out the team in that area and working with the young guys if they're in Lehigh Valley or the kids that are drafted and playing major junior in Canada, or if they play U.S. colleges, we're kind of keeping our eye on them. A few of the kids obviously over in
Hmm.
Europe as well. A little bit harder to see or whatever, but through video and things like that, we can kind of keep tabs on them and stuff. And I think now it's just with the salary cap in place and now with it being flat, going through COVID and a shutdown here is really important for teams to develop their young players and make sure these guys can step in and play. So all the good teams have these guys develop and play. So it's a fun role. It's nice to kind of work with all these great young prospects that have been drafted, and the Flyers kind of believe in the scouting staff. The team believes in them, and then it's kind of our job to push them through and make sure they're doing the right
Right.
things or making changes in their game to make that step from junior and
In the
college to the
NHL.
pro level in the
Yeah.
American League, and then obviously the jump to the NHL. So that's kind of our goal. So it's kind of a fun position for an ex player to be in, still involved in the game,
Mhm.
and helping these young guys try to fulfill their dreams to play in the NHL. So
Yeah, definitely. And kind of just go off that now, do you just work with the defense, or is it just like you kind of just work with everybody, or
yeah, so myself, sorry, and Shell Samuelson
Mhm.
work with the D, generally with the D, or if we travel because of the amount of prospects they have, we kind of focus on the D.
Mhm.
John Riley, Brett Hextall, and they brought on Chris Stewart this year after he retired with his
Right.
time with the Flyers brief last year. So he's helping out. We have Brady Robinson, who does the goalies. So he focuses on that area. So we all kind of got our
Your own kind of
departments
sections.
based on our
Yeah.
position is exactly. But we also with Lehigh will help kind of everybody if we're there. It's not just
Okay.
you know what I mean. One guy last year they didn't have 2 years ago they didn't have a lot of D prospects there. This year there was quite
Mhm.
a few more. So, but we're there to help everyone. But if we go and travel or watch someone play, generally we focus on the defense, and then the other guys focus on going to see the forwards and keeping tabs on them. So
Okay. Yeah, because when I reached out to you to do this, I was kind of thinking, I was talking to my dad, I was like, I wonder if it's just like, him and Shell, because I always see Shell at development camp because I've been
yeah,
going for the
yeah,
last
yeah.
handful of years. And
Okay.
I didn't know if it was just, just defense or what. And kind of to go off that too, what is it like working with Shell? I always notice that he's very vocal on the ice. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things I noticed that he does that he's very repetitive with the drills. I've always thought he's done a fabulous job when I've seen it. So what's it kind of like working with him?
It's been great. Me as a young guy coming in, and a player new to the other side of the
Mhm.
fence, essentially, right? Coming from playing, but Shell the same way. He played and had a great career, and then he got into coaching and doing a bunch of different things. And now, when it kind of got to the teams when they established these development staffs and stuff, he kind of took over that, and he does a great job. He knows what it takes. He relates well to the players. His son Matthias just turned pro this year and got a chance to play in the American League and some games with Buffalo. So he's kind of had that in his own family, and his own experiences kind of helped his son get to that level, which is pretty cool. And he kind of relates all that to the players in the Flyers organization as well, right?
Right.
He's kind of been around for a long time, and seen a lot of things, and knows what it takes to make it and what these guys need. So he's been a great mentor, kind of having him there, and the rest of the staff there kind of learning the other side of it, the development side of it, and making sure we're doing the right things to help these guys, like I said, ultimately become a Flyer, and help the Flyers, push for a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. I mean, I've always noticed it with Shell, as I said, from just going to development camp and stuff. But just one last question here. Has there been anything that you guys have had to change? Obviously since COVID started, it's obviously tough to kind of work with the players and things like that, as you said, like maybe traveling and stuff like that. Um, and
Yeah,
and and kind of just one thing, what are some things that you guys would normally do in a normal year if, COVID wasn't a big issue?
yeah. So this past year, like I mentioned, we couldn't travel to see the kids. We couldn't. Normally, we could go and maybe take them out for dinner the night before, or talk to them, make sure everything's going well with their school, their hockey, and
Right.
all that stuff, and just kind of see where they're at. It's not just about the players on the ice; it's off the ice too, and making sure they're doing the right things and taking care of themselves, and mentally and physically, everything they're good. So we obviously couldn't do that. We could watch video. Some of these, some kids weren't able to start. There's a few kids that would have been in the Ontario Hockey League this year that played in the minors, Millman and Forrester and Zaid Wisdom. So those guys we got a chance to work with in the American League this year was kind of nice. So we had lots of other first year pros there, which was good. So essentially this year we just mainly our focus was in Lehigh Valley. So
Okay.
once that started, we could be there like the other coaches, and do the testing and make sure everything was all the protocols and everything were followed. And we were there helping out with that group. So we had, I think, maybe 4 or 5 D that were first year pros, and a bunch of kids up front that turned pro with Wade Allison and Tanner Lashinsky and some of those guys that you saw up with the Flyers. So there's a
Mhm.
good group of really, really young prospects and guys coming up and turning pro. So fun to work with those guys. So our main focus was there. We didn't have a lot to do with the Flyers, just with, like I mentioned, the testing and things. They couldn't have really anyone coming in and out or whatever. But it was mainly, kind of focus on the Phantoms and helping those guys out this year. So
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. I think because obviously the Royals weren't playing this year, and as you said, with a lot of those guys you mentioned, a lot of them had really good years in Lehigh Valley. Wisdom, Forster are two, and obviously the few guys that came out to the Flyers there at the end. But again, Nick, seriously, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I had a
yeah,
wonderful
for sure.
time. And
That's good.
yeah, so remember, guys, podcast articles, those links are on my channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.